I brought Jason Buttrill in. He is the chief researcher for the Glenn Beck program and also the head writer for BlazeTV on Wednesday night specials. Welcome.
Thanks,
Jason.
Glenn.
We sent you down to the border because there was the truckers, the Take Our Border Back convoy. And everybody was saying it's a Christian nationalism. And it wasn't Christian nationalism. And I knew that. You knew that because I know some of the organizers. And I thought there's no way unless it's infiltrated. And so we set you down with a camera crew. And his story turned out to be nothing. Yeah. However, you came back a changed man.
I hate to say that I was completely black-pilled, but...
I mean, it's a big change.
Yeah, big change. You walked in...
He still doesn't have hair. I mean, I'm saying it's completely changed.
How dare you?
But you came back and you were like, Glenn, I can't... I have to show you. I can't even explain what I learned.
Well, I know that... I mean, we all know that the government and the media all bend the immigration and border issue for their own purposes. They all game it. It's too politically valuable for them. So, the media uses it. We saw that with the trucker convoy, like firsthand. That's the very first thing we saw. But then you remember that time? It was kind of awesome to be a Texan during that time.
Well, all of a sudden, Texas stood up.
Yeah, we're like flying our flags and we're like, we're taking the matter in our own hands. We're finally enforcing the law. I felt so awesome to be a Texan. And it's incredibly hard to describe without you actually seeing the video, without you seeing the Shelby Park, how it was kind of taken. Yeah. It's impossible to explain, but that right there is when I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like we're being lied to all across the board.
Even on our own side.
Even on our own, Texas. That's the worst part.
Yeah, I know. Randy Clark is with us. He's a retired Border Patrol agent. He also writes for Breitbart, and he was down on the border, and he's one of the guys that kind of black-pilled you a little bit.
Randy Clark is old school Border Patrol. You spend 5 minutes with him, and you are an expert. He's amazing. Randy, welcome to the Glenn Beck program.
Thank you for having me, Glenn. Jason, good to hear of you again.
You too, brother.
So Randy, let's talk about a secret meeting that is in the dock tonight. A secret meeting. I guess it wasn't secret. We just don't know what they did. That happened with Antony Blinken and the president of Mexico.
So we know they sat down together in late December, right about the time we were seeing, the hordes of people coming into Eagle Pass, all of that imagery. And when it gets that bad, that's when it becomes a big deal, because that's when you get those folks from the media that never report on the border. That's when CNN is obligated to come, and other outlets that just really don't care whether the border is open or not. They would rather see it open. That's when there's a problem. This was shut down within 3 days of that meeting between Biden and Obrador talking, and then Blinken and Mayorkas sitting down with Obrador once again late December. Within a few days, Eagle Pass was down to 0 when the congressional visit came, with close to 60-some-odd members of the Republican Party, including the Speaker of the House. You couldn't find anybody there. We had a handful of migrants come near the boat ramp during their press conference, where normally by that hour of the day we would have had 5,000. So this was awfully fast, and nobody's taking credit for it except really the state of Texas with some wire, because the Biden administration doesn't want to let you know we could have done this 3 years ago.
This is because I know what you're showing tonight, and it is it's it's a punch to the gut. It really is. Tell me when did Texas put the razor wire up? Before or after this?
So that razor wire has been up for several years now. They augmented it around January the 11th when they seized the park. By that time, the park had been clear of most migrants for 11 days. The problem is this thing is still moving to the west. In other words, the country still has a problem with illegal immigration and open borders and fentanyl. It's the government of Mexico, their main objective was to stop those trains. The Bestia system, they call it. It's the Bestia. Those trains are almost void of any migrants when they were bringing in daily 3,000 to 5,000. into the parts of Texas, mostly in Eagle Pass as of late.
So the drug cartel had to be involved because the drug cartel runs everything. And if they decided to shift, that's either a wild coincidence after we meet with the president of Mexico, or they're involved.
So the cartels have not stopped their part. Where there is value, they're moving that. If you look to Lukeville, Arizona, where you see that there are migrants from across the globe coming in, that's where the cartel is making the bulk of their money on human smuggling. They have not stopped that.
Yeah, but they have stopped or cut way back in Texas, right?
Well, if you see the got-away numbers, they're still there. The sheriffs in South Texas and the Texas Department of Public Safety, they are still chasing cars in pursuits on the highways. And that's the hand of the cartel. Those are paying customers. We hide them. They're even hiding them from Mexico. They're trying to get around those checkpoints in Mexico. Mexico's finding them in semi-tractor trailers, just like the Border Patrol finds at their checkpoints. It's now a game of cat and mouse in Mexico with the cartels, like it is in the United States. So the cartel's still trying to beat this Mexican government initiative, and they're doing it by moving west because that was not hindered. But they are moving more of their migrants to the west, and we see those numbers coming up where Texas is remaining low. There are tens of thousands of soldiers that Mexico has placed towards this endeavor. If they just keep the people off the trains, you can take away about 5,000 per day from the equation. So we're seeing that. We're seeing crossings of 5,000 to 6,000 a day, where we were seeing up to 10 and 11 and 12 during December, right before the meeting between Blinken, Mayorkas, and Obrador.
I saw that yesterday it was reported that two groups of people were taking Ubers across the border. I don't know who would have done that, but their cars were shot up. One person was killed because it was the cartel, because they didn't ask permission to come across the border. Is that universal across the border?
You know, it is universal, and that's really what's at stake that we cannot lose sight of, is that this cartel, they're going to make money doing whatever they can, whether it's extortion, whether it's robbery, whether it's fentanyl, whether it's migrants. And that's really why I think we have to, as conservatives, stay true to this matter and let the public know what they face, because this is a greater thing going on in the background. We've got a simultaneous election going on in Mexico that's going to happen in June. The leading candidate is way more liberal than Obrador.
Oh, my gosh.
We're going to see the same, feelings towards the cartel, the hugs and not bullets. We're going to see that carry on, and we're going to face, if we do not change in our election, and we stay the course we're at right now, we will see an open border for years, and those near 80,000 fentanyl deaths are going to continue or rise because nobody's going to do anything about this cartel.
Tell me about, they're bending over backwards to try to dismiss any crime coming from illegals that are crossing over. I mean, you just have to see, some of the more heinous things that are going on right now are coming from. I mean, we have our own homegrown people, but we don't have to have the crime from people who shouldn't be here in the first place. And the media doesn't seem to understand that. And they're trying to make everybody seem like they're just good people trying to come over. Can you explain the crime? Is there any causation of the crime stats going up beyond just reimagining the police?
Well, there sure are, and not to paint migrants with a broad brush, because we know most are economic migrants. The problem is in the chaos, just like when you saw in the Afghanistan withdrawal, in the chaos you just cannot control who gets on a plane, who crosses the border, and what we're seeing right now is even the liberal media is poking fun at this, almost as if it's funny that people are getting killed at the hands of either drunk drivers or strangled to death at a university, a young lady. They're making light of that. And what we see on the official side is, well, the only person responsible for that crime is the murderer. Well, you hear that because there was no gun. If there was a gun, well, then it would have been the gun. But it wouldn't have been this. This administration is not going to take any responsibility for what they have unleashed on America. And I say unleashed because I was in the Border Patrol when Ronald Reagan was president, and I left at the end of the Trump administration in August of 2020, right at September. This has never existed. What I have seen in the last 3 years, I have no advice to give Border Patrol agents I meet while I'm out on the job, that are just getting started, because I don't have experience. I spent 32 and a half years in the Border Patrol. I cannot tell them how to cope with this because we never saw it before. I don't want folks to lose sight of this, that this is extremely dangerous. And you see the Democrat mayors tapping out for a reason. We have neglected every major immigration law or protection that we have in there, such as public charge or public health issues. We have forgotten about everything, and the crime we have forgotten about as well. Some of the gangs coming in from Venezuela, they are masters at moving into other countries. They did that when they left Venezuela. They did that in Colombia. They did that in Peru. They know how to take over the organized crime in that country, and they do it with extreme violence. And I think we're going to see that in some of our bigger sanctuary cities coming up. These poor law enforcement that are already defunded in those areas are not going to be able to cope with it.
Yeah, America's never seen anything like Haiti before, and we're on that track. Randy, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for all of your help on the dock and informing us and helping us to figure out what's really going on. Thanks for everything you do and have done. Randy Clark.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you for having us.
You bet. Bye-bye.